So now I know what you are all waiting for. We have a legend amongst us, and yes, all of you know who she is. She is Gayle Sheppard. So before she comes on the stage, let me talk something about her. I'll talk about her Microsoft contributions in a while. Before joining Microsoft, Gayle led Saffron Group as the chairman and the CEO, and that company, which specialized in artificial intelligence, got acquired by Intel in 2015. And in Microsoft, she leads the vision, strategy, product management, and customer experiences for the entire Microsoft data platform stack, including the Azure SQL services, the Azure offerings for MariaDB, Postgres, MySQL, Azure Databricks, Azure SQL Data Warehouse, Microsoft Analytics Platform, Azure Data Factory. There's a big list there, right? And also, Gayle is a true legend in terms of her advocacy for women empowerment and women in technology. So friends, please join me in welcoming Gayle Sheppard.
Wow.
Thank you, Gayle.
Wow.
Thanks for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gayle Sheppard leads as the Corporate Vice President of Azure Data, Microsoft. Over to you, Gayle. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good morning. Can you hear me? Okay, perfect. Well, I'm so delighted to be here and to be representing Microsoft in this venue, in this location. I have been here, this is my 4th day. I arrived early Monday morning, and it's my first time in Bangalore. I was in Mumbai for the very first time 25 years ago, and I want you to think about that for just a moment, and how amazing the progress has been in technology inside India during that period of time. And that I'm standing here in the center of the Silicon Valley of this country is amazing to me, and it's been a delightful experience. So I do lead the Azure data platforms for product management, product strategy. I have been on the job 3.5 months. I am sure all of you know a whole lot more about our data platforms than I do at this moment in time, but I will catch up, I promise. And I was impressed with the recital of all the technology that we bundled inside our data platforms and services. And so today what we're going to do is we're going to kind of do an update on what we've been up to. Some things you may have already heard about. We'll explain them a little better perhaps. And we have some demonstrations for you. We have a customer visit on stage and some videos to take us along this journey. But I'd like to start the morning with a few numbers. So let's make sure I know how to move my, here we go. 100, 17, and 7 are extraordinary because what they represent are 100,000 plus employees at Microsoft working with data every day in some form or fashion. 17 million partners around the world collaborate with us, and I find that a fascinating ratio. And together, we have the ability to impact, to change the lives of 7 billion people on the planet. And I am reminded that 20% of them live right here in this country. That's pretty amazing for all of you. And with this powerful connection that we have, it certainly emboldens the acceptance of enormous responsibility. And I think the thing that I love about Microsoft as a new employee of it is that. There's social responsibility, the community awareness, the community participation, and being here today with you. So what I'd like to do is start out with a customer story. A customer that's focused on serving 13 million people every day in a very critical function. The company is Paycheck. They're based in the United States, and this is their story. Here we go.
Clock in, clock out. Clock in, clock out. This is how millions of hourly workers track their time, and how small and medium-sized businesses manage their people. Supporting their efforts is Paychex, a human capital management firm that pays 1 of every 12 private sector employees in the United States. The Paychex FlexTime app is used by millions of employees every day. It handles 13 million time cards daily, and every punch must be captured accurately, with 0 downtime regardless of volume. People's livelihoods depend on it. But that volume is growing, fast. Millions of new hourly employees join the U.S. labor force every year. As Paychex experienced explosive customer growth, they reached a tipping point where their physical infrastructure became a bottleneck. They needed a solution that could keep up with the pace of their business. Something scalable, quick to deploy, cost-effective, intelligent. Paychex turned to Microsoft Azure, migrating flex time to Azure SQL Database, which is fully managed and has built-in intelligence to optimize performance and security, so they can serve more customers with peace of mind. Azure gives Paychex scalability they need and the reliability their customers demand, while optimizing costs and resources, freeing staff to focus on the customer. With Azure SQL Database, Paychex is creating world-class cloud apps and achieving their mission: help businesses succeed and manage their most valuable asset, people.
So Paychex, 13 million people every day on Azure. Reliability, security, performance are all the things that are fundamental to what we do. One of the other things that's really important to us is making data more usable. And that's actually what you're going to see a lot of today. When people ask me what I do, and these are friends and family and people on the street, so to speak, I don't say, you know, I am the corporate vice president responsible for Microsoft Azure data platforms, blah, blah, blah. I don't say that. I actually say, yeah, well, I have a job, and my job is really focused this year and next on making data more usable. And that provokes an interesting conversation. What does that mean? Why does it matter? And do you have some great examples? So along the way this morning, we do. So the other thing we're going to do this morning, we're going to play with some numbers. Now, take a look at 1.6 trillion and 10%. What this is all about is the strategic value of data inside corporations today and forward. So by the year 2020, we expect, that's just next year, by the way, we expect that 10% of all businesses will have commercialized in some way a business unit that's using data as their core asset. We also expect that companies will have achieved an additional $1.6 trillion contribution to the economy based on the strategic deployment of data. Business optimization, digital transformation, new monetization models, all at play here at this time. We also find it interesting, and this is a fascinating number, that 500 million new apps will be created in the next 5 years. Now, I'm suspecting about 50% of them are going to be done by people in this room, okay? And that's not a challenge, that's a conclusion. But think about this. That's the same number of applications that were built in the last 40 years. We're going to build the same number in 5. And every single one of those applications is dependent upon data, creates data, and expands the problem that we have over here on your right. Because today, 73% of the data that we have in our businesses and in the world is not being analyzed. 73%. And think about this, what we might do better if we could analyze that data. We might serve our partners and our customers and our employees better. We might improve our business operations. We might drive things like personalized, individualized medicine and new businesses that effectively are changing the world, which I've met several of while I've been here. Other thing that's a bit challenging for us as we think about making data more usable is that 90% of the data we have right this minute was created in the last 2 years. While in the meantime, 50 billion devices are going to come online by 2030. And guess what devices do? They create more data. So the opportunity among us and ahead of us is enormous. And while all that's happening, 500 million new applications, 50 billion connected devices, our ecosystems are also changing. We are in and we are living in the era of the intelligent cloud and the intelligent edge. And in this world that we're living in this ecosystem that we're living in, There's a limitless amount of data that's usable and that continues to be created every day. And it's growing at such rapid rates that it's hard to estimate. But the question is, now that we know that, how do we bring it to action? Millions of transactions, billions of requests being processed per second, petabytes of data moving in real time for analytic pipelines, every application, all 500 new ones, fueled by data. We, Microsoft, have been thinking for some time about what databases should look like for the future. And so we built SQL database hyperscale with linear scale of compute and storage to support the limitless data estate. Linear scale of compute and store. So we're going to show you that in just a few minutes. But what is important to know before Sanjay comes up is that SQL hyperscale brings full compatibility for every application that you wrote on your existing SQL platforms. And it captures the limitless data variety that your estates are existing in every day, whether it's SQL or no SQL, structured or unstructured, image, text, voice, etc. And with the addition of SQL Database Edge, which is running on ARM processors at the edge with full compatibility with your other SQL investments, developers have the opportunity now to write once and deploy everywhere. This limitless data estate is where the future, the value, the strategic asset called data is living. And with that, let me invite Sanjay to the stage. Sanjay is our product manager for Azure SQL Database, and he's going to show you a little bit about how this works. Thank you.
Thank you, Gayle. And good morning, geeks. I'm very excited to give you a demonstration of Edge and hyperscale capabilities in SQL Database. And I'll take you through a journey of how we built it and why we built it and what we achieved. So for the moment, imagine I'm the operations manager of an auto company in Europe, and we are building autonomous cars, which collect an enormous amount of data on the car to be able to make intelligent decisions and autonomous driving cars. And to be able to do that, we rely on a platform that can give us the functionality, the scale, the performance, the security, all that you're so familiar with. Now here is the map of the factory, and operations manager, I'm looking at my dashboard and say, okay, what we have enabled now as a pilot, we have enabled 1,000 cars to capture the telemetry from the cars and send it to a central repository where we can do analyze. Now what we have done is, here we have, you can see we are already started to collect some, and then you can see here, there are sensors all over the car collecting data about all the stuff. And then they are sending, as you can see, they're already sending several gigabytes of data to make intelligent decisions. What do we need here? We need here a capability inside the car that can do two things. Number one, powerful enough to make intelligent decisions on board. Bangalore traffic, a car comes out in front of your car, you got to do something with the car, right? So it has to take immediate decisions on board, powerful enough, intelligent enough. Number two, compact enough so that I can fit it into the intelligent control unit of the car. And what we have for you is Azure SQL Database Edge. With your familiar T-SQL language, you're familiar of SQL construct, you're familiar of SQL design, all in the power of a small ARM device that can go in your wallet. That's the kind of thing we have. Now, what we are also doing, this Azure SQL Database Edge is capable of capturing tens of thousands of events per second. And what we are doing is that, of course, some of those events are being processed right there for intelligent onboard decision making. Some of those events are sent to a central repository where we are capturing all the data for other analytical purpose, for which I have an application, which is now, as I say, we have enabled 1,000. The data is coming in. Now, what happens with this data coming in is that we keep growing in data. What happens when you share knowledge? It grows. What happens when you share love? It grows. Today, we're adding a third dimension to it. What happens when you share data? It grows. So if it grows, we have to be capable of handling all the data, right? So now what is happening is that some ill-advised decision to my developers and made this database to be, you see, I don't even want to read that word it says. They'll put somewhere, okay? Not a good place, because what happens is as the load keeps increasing, what we've seen in that is it hits limit, because that database has 16 terabyte limits and I cannot capture any more data. Now, you're going to tell the data captured from the device, sorry, I don't have space for you, I cannot take you. That's not the right thing, because you are limitless in your aspirations, you're limitless in your spirit. Why limit the database? So what do we need? We need a database that can handle limitless data. We need one, so we built one. When we need one, we built one. That's what we do. We give you Azure SQL database, hyperscale. Azure SQL database, hyperscale. See the scale? And now everything is all good, fantastic. All 1,000 cars are happy, they're sending data, everybody is happy, no data is sad because they can find their home. Now, our inspiration as an operations manager, my aspirations increase. I don't want to limit myself to only 1,000 cars, right? I want to go to million cars. And here comes the drama, right? Let's stretch. Now, as you can see, I enable 1,000 cars, more data keep coming, vehicles online is keep increasing, every few seconds more and more vehicles are being added. If you see the scale changed here on the left side, because now the data is ramping up fast and high. Now, what we have done is that to show you the true capacity of hyperscale, I have to run this demo beforehand. It's a cooking show, right? I can show you the bake because it takes time to bake the cake, so we have baked the cake for you. And what I'm going to show you, that once the cake is baked, how it looks like. So I will go to the portal and I'll show you how big is the database. How big is the database? 200 terabytes. Repeat after me, please. 200 terabytes. That's how, in fact, there is no physical limit on this database. It can go limitless. But for this test, we have shown you a flavor with 200 terabytes. Now, the data has to be, we have to come with the data. Now the data coming in, we took care of the ingestion. Now we have to use the data to make something out of it, for which we need as powerful cores to run it. Now how do we do it? You're the SQL engine that you love for decades. And last time I showed you the demo of SQL Server 1.1, if you remember. And that SQL Server engine has grown over the year, and it has grown the fan following too. And now you all love it. So all this, that SQL Server engine, what we did it, we tore it apart. We tore it apart to scale. We tore apart the storage engine and made the storage scale. We tore apart the compute, the relational part. We made it scale, and then log being the single source of truth. And all scaling independently of each other, giving you the unlimited data capacity, give you the unlimited compute capacity, all working with a harmony, and all working with your familiar SQL Server that you know about. Now remember, the edge where you collected the data on the device, on the machine, was SQL Server. The data repository on the cloud is SQL Server. So you do not need any data transformation, you do not need any change in your logic, your coding or anything. Write once, deploy anywhere you want. Now, to make use of all this data, we got to put the compute power in it. Right now what I have is, I have a write replica and I have two read replicas, and which is around 160 cores of SQL Server I'm using. But I need more. Aspirations are limitless. Please, aspirations are limitless. So why stop at 2? Let's stretch it to 30 replicas. 30 replicas with 80 cores. Now think of this for a moment. 2,400 cores of powerful SQL Server engine working against 200 terabytes of data. Just imagine it. Aspirations are limitless. If you have a space in your heart, we'll have space for you in the database. Thank you.
So that was hyperscale and SQL Edge. And with a limitless data estate, Not only do we have the opportunity to connect now real time the power of that data, and by the way, I have a question as to why autonomous vehicles are not being trained here in Bangalore, but you probably know the answer to that. We're ensuring that data is a resource, right? We're going to make it more usable. For it to be more usable, first of all, it has to be available and not captive by any one system. As you see the ecosystem trailing up here, data and AI are at the center of it. Our systems, the experience of our wisdom is in these systems, and they really share the intelligence of our enterprise to empower our employees, to help engage our customers, to transform our products, and obviously to optimize our operations. And it is the power of data that emboldens, empowers, obviously, the ecosystem that we see transferring data around in front of us. The other important part of this is machine learning and intelligence inside the data. And so with the Edge, SQL Edge, one of the important aspects of that particular function that we've developed is that Edge has intelligence in the data where it lives. And one of our key themes here at Azure Data is to make sure that we have intelligence in the data as opposed to extracting data to create intelligence. So think about that. It's really important to have the operational machine learning in the data itself. So with that, let's talk a little bit more about what's ahead. So we've talked about, at this point, Azure SQL Cloud, and what I would learn very early on, because I'm learning our products and I'm new to the company and I'm hired into the Azure team and focused on the Azure portfolio. But a few weeks into it, I'm exposed to this thing called the SQL 2019 project. And wow, was I impressed. Not only is it an important release, but it's actually a new generation of SQL Server on-prem, but SQL Server really hybrid. And so with this release, we've created a true hybrid platform, unifying data, analyzing it in a virtual way, including AI over all of the data. So adding the benefit of easily accessing and analyzing our HDFS file sources as well, or data sources. Analyzing data virtually so that it doesn't have to be moved. This is one of the critical aspects of the limitless data estate. With this much data, we cannot be moving it and transferring it for the various operations that it must apply to. So allowing our data scientists to easily access new memory spaces or new analytic spaces that have been created on the fly in real time by data engineers is part of what you're going to see in our next presentation. I would like to invite Ronnie to join me on the stage. Ronnie manages our SQL Server machine learning, and he is going to show you this morning a little bit about how some of the analytics works inside the new SQL 2019. Thank you, Ronnie.
I'm very excited to be here today to showcase the offerings which we built for SQL Server big data clusters. And I already wasted a bunch of my time doing this display settings. But why we built the product is extremely important to understand. SQL Server is one of those most phenomenal products in our company and which we have taken a huge bet on. Now, when we were designing this product, one of the things we observed were customers were moving a lot of data. They were moving data because the data has a lot of variety in it. There were data which was generated from sensors, which Sanjay just showed you. There are data which is generated from transactions. Now, most of this data is a lot of variety in it. And in order for you would have to move this data from one system to the other. The data is either landing in Oracle or HDFS or Teradata. Now, if you have to move this data, you're wasting a lot of time because you're duplicating storage costs, you're exposing the data to much more security threats. So we solved that problem by building a unified analytics platform using SQL Server 2019 Big Data Cluster. This is a leapfrog generation ahead product, and I'm very pleased to show you what the product offerings looks like. We also built a unified analytics platform using both SQL Server and Spark. We have included the best two relational and unrelational engines inside the big data clusters so that you can process data from anywhere, whether it be it in memory or be it from HDFS everywhere. And also, you process the data to get meaningful trends from the data. And that's the reason why SQL Server Big Data Cluster is a unified analytics platform as well. Now, let me get started. So as you can see, I have Azure Data Studio here. And I have some files in HDFS which have been generated from sensors. Now, let's take a look at what that data looks like. You have temperature, humidity, and these are the sensors which are deployed in employees' offices from where you would like to move the data. But using SQL Server Big Data Clusters, you don't need to move any data whatsoever. We have included data virtualization built in for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click, create external table from CSV files. And that launches the database I want to virtualize the data into. This is the DPS 2019 database, which I'm going to use for this demo. So it's a blank database completely. I can quickly preview the data and see how it looks like. I could also modify the columns if need be. And at this step, I could either generate a script or create a table. Let's go ahead and create a table. Now, the create external table already succeeded. You can see it from the terminal window below. Now, this is a SQL Server Big Data Cluster which was deployed on top of Azure Kubernetes Service. This is a product which can be deployed anywhere. And that's where the beauty of the infrastructure lies. It's deployed on top of Kubernetes, so you can deploy it on top of your on-premises data centers. Also, you can deploy it on cloud. So this is an Azure Kubernetes service. So this version of SQL Server 2019 Big Data Clusters is running on Azure. I'm connected to the EastUS2 where my SQL Server Big Data Cluster is deployed. So let's see how everything works. So DPS 2019 was the name of the database. So if I refresh, I can see that my DBO sensor data was virtualized. I did not have to write any code to actually move the data. If I do a right-click select top 1000, what this is going to do is this is going to query the data from the remote HDFS instance and pulls the query results back for me. Now, this was good. You have virtualized some data from HDFS instance. But Ronnie, I have some employee information in an Oracle instance. How do I move that data or virtualize that data into SQL Server Big Data Cluster? So we have also another wizard called Create External Table. Now, when you launch that wizard experience, it asks you for your Oracle connection provider. So you choose Oracle there. And in the external data source name, you choose Oracle DS. I provide the service name in Oracle where I would like to connect. And at this step, I'm actually looking at the tables and the views in my remote Oracle instance. This Oracle instance I have deployed on top of Azure. So since we were doing the IoT sensor from the employees' offices, the table I would like is HR employees. I select HR employees, click next. At this step, I could either generate a script, because if I have to write it as a T-SQL, or create an external table. Now, you can imagine how we are optimizing the experience for our SQL Server developers to be productive on top of the data. If you had to write T-SQL, you would have had to write impeccable T-SQL to make sure that this would have worked. But we have created the wizard experience, and you can see the DBO employees was created. Now, obviously, as a SQL developer, the next thing I'm going to do is actually do a join across these two different data sources. And let's see how a join looks like. So I'm running a join across the two different data sources. One is the DBO employees, which we just brought from Oracle, and the sensor data from HDFS. I have not moved any data whatsoever. I have just virtualized the data sources and brought the data in. At this step, I could either create a combined data.csv, and I can save this in my, say, downloads folder. Once I save it, it looks something like this. Well and good. I'll just close it. And then, in my output folder in HDFS, which is the Hadoop distributed file system, I can now upload the file directly. So if my data scientist wants to actually use Spark and Spark's ML to actually process this file, how would he do that? So right now, you can see in the bottom it was uploading the files to HDFS. And now we have combined data.csv, which is in HDFS. If you right-click and do an Analyze in Notebook, this opens up a notebook with some snippet of code for you to process this particular file. And we are actually submitting a Spark job against the big data cluster directly. This is SQL Server and Spark together as a unified analytics platform, giving you the functionality to process data anywhere and everywhere. So this is good, but I'm a SQL developer. And can I write SQL notebooks for that? Yes, you can. So we have built a complete SQL notebooks. And this is a Markdown. So for folks who don't know much, are not familiar with Markdown, I could do hello DPS. Or I could even do funny things of a dancing penguin inside a notebook as well. So these are some of the Markdown capability we have built in. But wouldn't it be good if I could, before I build a machine learning model, actually look at the data and do some data visualization inside the product itself? And one such data set I would like to show is the demo vote data. This is actually the voting data during the Obama-Romney timeframe of the elections. And I have this data loaded up in HDFS. If I do a right-click, view in Sandance, this opens up the data inside a scatter plot built inside Azure Data Studio. Obviously, this is voting data, so the map represents the map of the United States. It automatically also detected the type of chart it had to plot. So this is a scatter plot. But now, let's see if I can actually find some meaningful patterns from the data. What I can do is, depending upon the education, I can figure out across the United States what the education looks like for people across. I could also make the z-axis as the median home value, and I could rotate the graph to actually figure out across the United States what the median home values are looking like. Also, if for income, also I could do the same, and the graph dynamically plots. Now, this is a three-dimensional graph. Now, it would be nice if I could also do some filtering on top of the data to see if I want to find some meaningful trends. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to say that where income is less than $40,000, and add an expression of, and median home value is greater than $800,000. And if I do a search and select, there are a couple of data points across the United States where the data actually satisfy, where a person with an income of less than $40,000 has bought a house of $812,500. This is the way, in using SQL Server Big Data Clusters and the experiences on top of Azure Data Studio, we are actually making data more usable. Thank you, everyone, for listening in.
Ronnie, that was fantastic. Now, what I'd like to do is take what Ronnie demonstrated, also add some of the capabilities of the SQL 2019 platform that we haven't discussed, and ask a customer to join us on stage. Monish, can you come up, please? Please join me in welcoming Monish Darda. You're so welcome.
Thank you so much.
How are you today?
Very good, and great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Now, you're an early adopter of SQL 2019, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Yes.
But before we do that, I think it's really interesting to note this Forrester wave, where your company is in the top leader quadrant, and at the pinnacle of that, in the contract lifecycle management application space.
Yes, and
that's outstanding.
The name looks great there, right?
It
yes,
does.
Yes, we are redefining the space in contract management. Essentially, for large Fortune 2000 companies, we are redefining their contract processes completely end to end. And it's interesting, we have 3 of the top 5 most valuable companies in the world as customers. We have a lot of customers, including Microsoft, and we're really actually owning the space, hopefully.
That's terrific. Well, obviously, you're in a good position at the moment, so we look forward to more. So you are a company that's developing product. You're a customer of Microsoft as well as a partner of Microsoft.
Yes.
We are a customer of yours, so this is a real ecosystem at work here. Right?
Absolutely, 360 degrees.
Could you talk to us a little bit about the data, the role of data, if you will, in your platforms and generally how you serve customers?
Yeah.
Okay.
So data is very critical for us, as is for almost any enterprise application. What's different now in the contract management space is that contract management is actually becoming the 5th system of record. If you think about CRM to ERP to HR systems to supply chain, contract management is bringing that data in. We manage probably the largest repository of contracts in the world. We manage about 5.5 million contracts. That represents about $1.5 trillion of contract value. So you're really at scale there in terms of how much data. And as Sanjay actually said, what do you do? What happens when you're actually collecting data? It explodes.
Right.
And we are going through that right now. And that's where actually we are very excited, because once you have the data and you have analytics on top, you can actually change how commerce works, really.
Well, let's talk a little bit then about SQL 2019 and why you adopted it as an early adopter in the first place.
So SQL 2019 has been in our core. We've actually, most of this actually would, if you think about it, has been all SQL for us. We were born in Azure. So we started with SQL Azure, as it was called then, SQL database, and now we are really excited about SQL 2019. So if you think about our customers, and if you think about contracts as data, security is paramount. You know, we are seeing so many of these use cases where, for example, always encrypted. You want to make sure that the data that you store in the database is encrypted at the column level and the field level, and you want to make sure that the keys are outside the database. So most of our customers want that separation between data ownership and data processor, which is us. And they want to make sure that neither Microsoft nor iCertis can actually get to that data. And SQL Server 2019 has some great features, including TDE. We use Azure Key Vault integration. We use dynamic data modeling, as well as application level encryption. If you look at performance and scale, in-memory OLTP, for example, because you're doing so many transactions on the contract, especially because we now control the transactions that happen downstream of the database. And we also use column store indexes. So really, SQL Server 2019 is now changing the game for us. And if you think about the most important thing for us, I think we have so many customers. We run 400 plus databases in production, unique instances of databases in production. Apart from our dev and QA databases, we have seen all of the form factors out there. We run on-prem, we run on SQL database, we run elastic pools, and we run on SQL on VM across clouds, not just Azure. So we've seen it all, and that is fantastic. And what we are really, really now excited about is we don't want to run all of this infrastructure ourselves. We are really excited about serverless.
So that's an interesting point. We hear a lot about serverless. The audience may have heard a lot about it. Still nascent in its adoption.
That's right.
Why did you adopt it?
So it's an interesting question. We have, this big problem of management. There's capacity utilization is not ideal because you end up over provisioning systems, and that's a significant amount of our costs. So if you look at our Azure costs, we're probably one of the largest customers of Azure in India, which is good, but also for us, it's a big cost. And if you look at the inefficiency of that utilization, we are actually wasting a lot of power and money by having those databases running. Right. So the costly over-provisioning and the resource management, we don't want to get into the infrastructure side of it, that really makes serverless very, very useful for us.
Great. Thank you so much.
Of course.
So on-demand, flexible scale,
Yes.
fully managed and intelligent, and cost-effective.
Exactly. And that's why we are using serverless.
And that's why you're a unicorn. Weren't you just announced as a unicorn here in India?
Yes, that is true. So India's third enterprise SaaS unicorn. We raised a $115 million round very recently.
Yes.
And it's actually very interesting because, this journey over the last 10 years, right from where, if you think about it, the Azure journey started as well, has been very, very interesting. And of course, Microsoft has been a great partner. So thank you for all of the support you've given, as well as from the SQL Server perspective. I think it's a great job. Please keep on doing that.
Well, thank you so much. Congratulations on your success. We look forward to watching your journey and participating in it.
Thank you.
And perhaps you'll come back and do this again.
Absolutely.
All right,
We'd
thank
love
you so
to.
much. Join me in welcoming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we talked a lot about relational databases, and it's really interesting to me. I was wondering, as I was watching the video that Meet showed earlier on the journey from 2004 to now, if in fact some of the things that we are talking about today were in our imaginations back in 2004. if they were on the requested feature list and not given the one priority. But also I wondered how we thought about open in 2004 and how we're thinking about it today. And so Microsoft equals open. And that is a fundamental philosophical shift that the company has had underway for some time. The ecosystem is changing. Microsoft is part of a major ecosystem. It too is changing, and we believe we have the most open approach to the data ecosystem today, and it includes open. So let's talk a little bit about that. So as you see here, we have a ton of, or not a ton of, but a series of opportunities with Postgres, and a ton of momentum behind that. The story with Postgres for us really originates with an acquisition that we made last year called Citus. Postgres is a very well-respected and very well-adopted open relational database. And we were able to acquire Citus and bring them on board to Microsoft so that we could scale Postgres as well. Because there's nothing worse than starting with an open source platform and then realizing that it won't take you through the production journey that you ultimately need to scale your business with. And so we've done that, and by doing so, by integrating Postgres into, and Citus into Postgres, we're able to create what is effectively a hyperscale environment. I'm going to take you now to a customer who's using a variety of open source tools. Let's listen to their story and the apps that they're building with an open source platform and Azure to serve their customers.
PayMe is a social payment system. It helps people to send money to each other, and this is also good in the way that it also facilitates people to split the bill, which is a very common thing to do. On the first day, we had some hiccup because the number of people who want to join us is far more than what we expected.
The app was starting to slow down and impact our customer experience, and we turned off all marketing just not to promote the product, which is a bit unusual, but we're growing so quickly we're exceeding our capacity. So we did a whole lot of research and looked at how we could best solve that problem. And so moving to Microsoft Azure Cloud has enabled us to break those constraints and grow without even thinking about it.
We can just scale up our requirements at the time when we need it. It also helps to save costs for the bank. The customer, they have a better response time.
It took around 8 to 10 seconds with Microsoft Azure. Within a second, you can complete the transaction. So you could really realize how big of the improvement it is. And then, of course, this is the benefit to the customer and also, the reputation to HSBC as well.
We recently announced we're over 1 million registered customers, and that's almost doubled from where we were before the cloud, and that's only happened in about the 6 months that we've been on the cloud. So that's been a massive enabler for us to be able to grow that fast. In Hong Kong, we've got about a quarter of the addressable market already within 18 months of launch, and we're still growing as fast as we've ever grown. One of the key benefits of going from Microsoft Azure is it's good for the customers to know that their data is stored and processed in Hong Kong.
All the data are encrypted, and then it's only HSBC with authorized person can read the data. There's a lot of tooling available on Microsoft Azure to help us to protect our data.
By working with our customers and the regulators globally, within the last 4 years, we've been talking to 100 regulators, including the Hong Kong, and to actually define our financial services compliance program that will meet the regulatory requirements for our customers.
Microsoft has been really helpful. They have a team who work with us. They help us to just overcome a lot of challenge and give us the technical advice and help us to move along. It's really good collaboration. In a cloud migration project, we find a right partner.
I think Sunil, are you here? Can I see Sunil? Can you stand up real quick? I want to point him out. It's going to be hard to see him, but Sunil manages our open source platforms. And it's a group that has Postgres, Citus, MySQL, and MariaDB. He is here today and available also for you. So note that we have the person leading our open source platforms here with us. And when what we saw, I suppose I should talk about a little bit about SQL hyperscale. One of our goals was to bring hyperscale to every database, not just SQL. And so when we acquired Citus, that was our mission, was to actually bring that to Postgres, one of the most popular relational databases in the open source available. And so we did that, and we launched this year the scale out of Postgres, being able to deliver fast performance by horizontally scaling and distributing data and queries across the compute environment. So now we ingest and query events in real time with sub-second response across billions of rows. That's what we've accomplished with Postgres Citus. It's a terrific expansion of the idea of hyperscale, of the limitless data estate, and what we're hoping to accomplish in terms of making data more usable, and also improving our ability for developers who are developing on these platforms to continue to develop with the knowledge they have and scale that knowledge out for themselves as well, continuing to utilize the resources that have been developed. So one other important thing about Citus is it continues to remain in the open source community. And one other important thing to know about Microsoft is that all of those open source databases that we support with the same enterprise reliability that we have in our SQL platform is now also, we are functioning and contributing back to the open source community. And so we're very, very proud of that. And I think that this is a new day and certainly a commitment to Microsoft that is significant and important. But as we move forward, we've covered this SQL family, we've covered our key open source relational databases. Now we're going to move to NoSQL. And in NoSQL is a product that we launched several years ago called Cosmos DB. It is a NoSQL platform that is globally distributed, multimodal, and effectively has low latency that is extraordinary. It is used by some of the largest companies in the world in use cases that may be pair value store related, they may be document store related, they could be graph stores. It integrates and works with all forms of those data types. It is a leader in the 2019 Forrester Wave that talks about big data NoSQL platforms, and it scored the highest in strategy and roadmap. So we're very, very proud of Cosmos DB. And I'd like you to take a look at how it's being used in Coca-Cola, a brand that really needs no introduction, but one that has adopted this technology in its innovation cycles for data, big data, and limitless data. Here we go.
Coke is a brand, it's about inspiration that brings people together, it's uplifting, and it's optimistic. We're in over 200 countries, and we have over 1.9 billion serves of our products a day. Across our system, we have sales revenue, multiple currencies, multiple countries from multiple sources. And our challenge has always been to get insights up to speed. We're fully in with the move to cloud. The core part of that move is Cosmos DB.
Being a globally distributed company, we have petabytes of data that continues to grow. We wanted to partner with somebody who has a battle-tested infrastructure as we're running mission-critical applications. That's what, quite frankly, led us to Microsoft. Being able to scale and have insights that are actually delivered within minutes is very, very important for us. We're very, very excited about Cosmos DB and the upcoming native Spark support.
The NSR program's brought our system together as we bring data from our franchise partners and the company together to better segment and better serve the needs of our consumer. It's delivered against that. It's delivered us the Cosmos DB technology that allows us to scale massively. I mean, this is the time that we can make a fundamental difference to our business, and I don't think it gets any better than that.
It's a big portfolio, and we're only covering a bit of it today. But the next important aspect of making data usable is actually using it and applying it to analytics. So in front of you is some of the portfolio members of the analytics group. And not to drill into each of these applications or products, but really to present them in a seamless way. From the ingestion of data, the management of it, the organization of it, if you will, into a data warehouse, the ability to apply advanced machine learning on that data, both in its store as well at the end over here in BI reporting. The integration and flow of that all the way to Power BI and to other BI tools is the job of making data usable. And so we're excited, and you will continue to hear from us an intense focus in this particular area of our own development, as well as working with partners who are bringing additional assets to bear in this landscape. Now, capacity to collect and reason over this data is really important. The analytics that we're doing is really important. And we have customers, of course. I think one of the most interesting reasons for companies coming to Azure today is the ability to not only have the access to the variability of database approaches we support, but also to leverage the analytics on top of that. I have one more video I'd like to show you. It's Anheuser-Busch. And I apologize that beer is not offered here at this event right this moment, but nevertheless, it's a good story and one that I think you'll enjoy hearing as an example of a great use case that you may be able to employ in your business.
AB InBev, we're a global brewer and marketer and producer of beer. We have over 500 global brands, and literally 1/3 of all beer sold in the world is one of our products. Being so geographically dispersed as an organization is a challenge for us. We want that single global infrastructure and architecture so we can drive synergies.
We had data centers throughout the world. We weren't able to drive speed, and the time that it took to go to market wasn't allowing us to be agile.
So we built the Beer Garage. It's a mix of an innovation group as well as the enterprise architecture group, where we're really pushing the envelope from a technology perspective and then driving that to the local zones to make sure we keep that consistency and technology strategy. We have set a very lofty goal of having 80% of our workload in the cloud by the end of 2020.
There are two reasons why we went to Microsoft Azure. When we started looking at our data center footprint, we wanted to find a partner that could help us understand the workloads, help us craft the plan and move it there. The second part is our strategy has been to use PaaS services. We abstract away the operational complexity to somebody like a Microsoft so that the application developers can really focus on the business logic and the agility. We use the Azure Site Recovery service as a mechanism for us to move from the data center to the cloud.
AB InBev is really improving our ability to drive insights through data. It's one of the big platforms that we're actually using Azure for.
It's a huge amount of data that we handle on a daily basis. The only way we could do this is with cloud. Cloud services allow us to collect data that we weren't able before. It helps us to integrate different systems, to equalize between different markets, different regions, so they all use the same platform.
We've heavily adopted the SQL Data Warehouse solution. The data lake is powered by Azure SQL Data Warehouse, which stores all of the structured data. The analytics platform is able to work with Azure APIs, build all of the analytic infrastructure, Hadoop clusters, run the actual algorithm or the job, produce the results, and then tear down all this infrastructure as well.
We're a company that likes to take calculated risks, and we enjoy really pushing the boundaries and seeing what we're capable of doing.
As we go down this journey of this digital transformation and this exponential growth of ABI from a technology perspective, Microsoft's been huge. It's maybe the lead instigator in how we're going to get there.
So the data journey, making it more usable, doesn't end with analytics. It doesn't actually end with AI. In every use case you saw, there was AI at work, machine learning embedded in each one of those customers' data journeys. And so making AI, machine learning, available for deployment in the applications you're building and the data analysis you need to do is also part of the job. So tomorrow, Anand Raman is going to be the keynote, and he will take you through Microsoft's strategy for AI and the development platforms that we offer there and the types of things that you can do that this team has been working hard on over the last 24, 36 months. And I shouldn't limit our AI focus to the last 24, 36 months. We've been in the AI business since at least 1995, if not sooner, or longer than that. So it is an important journey that this company has been on and it's invested heavily in. But the value of data is ultimately realized when we can access it, when we can use it, when we can govern it, when we protect it, we can make sure it's secure, when we can make sure we deliver it to the right people at the right time for the right purpose. And that's our job here at Azure Data. It's been a pleasure to be with you today. I want to thank you very much for allowing me to do my very first talk and to work with my team to present to you some of the ideas and some of the new products that we're bringing into market to help you. Let us know how we can, in turn, respond and quickly to you. We have just a terrific listening culture here at Microsoft, and I appreciate the opportunity to meet so many of you. Thank you. Have a great conference. Amit, thank you very much. It's a brilliant organization you have. Have a great day and a great journey. Thank you.